So, like I said before, if you're taking this course, then chances are you already know basic PHP. But just in case you don't, I just want to go over pretty much just the bare basics that you just need to know. Things like variables, arrays, if statements, loops, things like that. So I'm going to just cram all those simple things into this video before we get started with our actual projects. Okay, so we have xampp installed. So I'm going to go to my, actually have it right here. I have a shortcut to my htdocs folder, which is in, if you followed along then and you chose the default path, then it's in your local drive /xampp/htdocs. Alright, so let's create, actually what do I got here? I have a test folder, so I'm just going to get rid of that and create a new index.php file. Alright, now if we want to go to this file, oops, let me get this out of here. We want to go to localhost/test. Okay, so just like with HTML, if you have an index page, that's what's going to show up if you go to that directory. Okay, so we have an index.php page in our test directory, so that's where this path here is going. Alright, so let's open up that with Notepad++. Alright, so first thing, you can embed PHP right into HTML. Okay, so let's say if we have an h1 tag, okay, so we'll just say welcome. Okay, so very simple. Now if we want to use PHP here and assign the welcome text to a variable, that's really easy to do. Okay, so we want to open up our PHP tags. I don't know why that happens. Which is the less than sign, then a question mark, and then PHP. And then when you want to end your PHP block, you want to use question mark greater than sign. Okay, so to assign a variable, if you've used JavaScript or any other kind of programming language, then you know that a variable is basically just a holder for something else. It could be text, it could be an array, it could be a date, it could be a number, pretty much any sort of data. Alright, so let's just create a data called heading. And you'll notice that I have a $sign here. All variables in PHP have to start with a $sign. Alright, so if you go like this, heading equals welcome, this is not going to work. Alright, most likely it'll take this as a constant, and you don't want that. You want this to be a variable, so you want to make sure you have the $sign. Alright, and with JavaScript you could do something like var. You don't need to have the var in PHP, just the variable is fine. Alright, so if we want to output this variable, we can remove this welcome text and put in a PHP block. And we want to use the echo command and then heading. Okay, and you can see that all PHP lines need to end with a semicolon. Okay, and echo is basically if you, I'm using JavaScript as a reference here because I'm sure that most of you, if you don't know PHP, know JavaScript, and it's kind of equivalent to the document.write method. It basically just prints it out in the browser. Alright, so if we save this, this should look the exact same. If we change this to hello world, save it. Okay, so now it's just basically spitting out that variable. Alright, so that's variables. Next, let's do arrays. Alright, so most programming languages have some kind of array, or maybe called a hash. Basically, it's a variable that holds a bunch of values. Alright, so let's create an array here. Okay, we'll use fruit. Okay, so we have a variable called fruit, and let's set that to an array. Okay, and then the array is going to take the parameters will be the actual values. All right, so let's say apple, and each value needs to have quotes around them. It could be single or double quotes. All right, so now we have an array with 3 values, and let's say we want to echo out apple. We could say fruit, and then some brackets with a 0. All right, so let's just see what this does first of all. Okay, so it gives us apple, and I use 0 here because arrays in PHP always start at 0. Okay, so this is 0, this is 1, this is 2. Okay, so that's extremely important to remember. If we want to get grapes, then we can put in the 2, and that'll spit out grapes for us. Now, in PHP, we can use what's called an associative array, which we can define our own keys. Okay, so with this example, we're using the value or the number as a key. Now we don't have to use this. We can set our own keys. Okay, so basically we can say array, and we'll have a key called fruit1, and we just want to use the equal sign and then the greater than sign, and that's going to point to the value. So this is the key, this is the value. Okay, so let's do fruit2. Alright, so now we can echo out fruit2, and that gives us orange. Okay, so I mean this is kind of a bad example because this isn't descriptive really. A better example would be maybe first name equals, and then the person's first name, last name, address, something like that would be a little more helpful. But basically that's how you can create an array. Let's move on to loops, because you can loop through an array with a for each loop. Okay, so let's do that. Let's actually change this to be a little more descriptive. So we'll have a user array with a first name, last name, and we'll have an email. Alright, so now we have this user array, and we can loop through this. Alright, so we want to use a for each loop. And actually this is, let's use a regular array first before we use the associative array. Okay, so I'm just going to say actually, you know what? The fruit array is better to use if we're using a non-associative array. So let me just do that real quick. Alright, so if we want to loop through here, through these values, we can say for each fruit. Actually, this should be, let's call this fruits. So for each fruits as fruit. Alright, now this can be whatever you want. This has to be the name of the actual array variable, and then this can be whatever you want, and this is the this is what you're going to use inside of the loop. Okay, so let's echo out fruit. Okay, so that's spitting out each value for us. All right, and we can actually concatenate on HTML and give it a line break so that these are on different lines. To concatenate with PHP, you want to use a dot, and then when you switch to basically HTML or text, you want to add these quotes in. All right, and we can add an HTML here. We'll put in a line break. All right, so now each value is now on a different line. Now, through the series, we're going to have basically view files, which are HTML with embedded variables. And in some cases, we'll need to use loops. And you might see this in a different format. So we'll have a bunch of HTML, and then we'll say for each fruits as fruit. All right, and then we're going to use a colon and then exit out of the PHP. And then down here we want to end it. We can say end for each. All right, so this gives us a block where we can actually insert HTML only here, as opposed to having to echo it out. All right, so we could do something like have a list item. Actually, let me just get rid of this here for now. All right, so we could have like a UL. And then in here, we could do something like this. Unexpected less than on line 5. Oh, we're still in the PHP block here. All right, so you will see this kind of formatting quite a bit. All right, so now let's do this associative array, this user array. Okay, so I'm going to comment out. By the way, you can use these double forward slashes for commenting. You can also use a forward slash asterisk, and then to end it, an asterisk and forward slash, which you'll see quite a bit as well. All right, so let's uncomment the user array, which is an associative array because it has our own defined keys. And if we want to go through that, we can say for each users, and then we want to say as key, and then the equal sign and greater than sign, and then value. And these variables do not have to be key and value. You can use whatever you want, but basically to access the key, you can use this variable. To access the value, you can use this. All right, so let's echo out. We'll echo out just the value first. Undefined variable users. Oh, we want to change this to users. All right, so now we get the value, the first name, last name, and email, but we can also access the key if we want. Okay, so let's write here, we'll say PHP echo key, and we'll put a colon here. Okay, so now we have the key. This underscore and stuff doesn't look very good. It doesn't have to be formatted like this. You could just as easily make it look like this. All right, so that looks a lot better. So basically, we'll be using for each quite a bit, as well as some other types of loops, because we're going to be pulling values from a database. All right, so and formatting them kind of like this, except we won't just be statically creating them up here. It'll come from the actual database. So that's basically arrays and loops. We'll probably use while loops and for loops as well, which are pretty much the same kind of thing. So I'm not going to go into those. What I want to do now is move into conditionals, so if statements. All right, so let's set something up here. let's say x equals 1, and then we'll say if we want to check if something's true or false. So if x is equal to 1, okay, you need the double equals here. The double equals is a comparison, and the single equals is an assignment, okay. And we'll just say echo yes. Reload, you get yes, and let's see if x is equal to 3, then nothing. Okay, if we want something to happen when it's false, we can use an else. Okay, so we'll echo no. Just okay, if we reload, we get no. Alright, so like I said before, this is really simple stuff, so if you already know this, feel free to move on. So the next thing, let's take a look at a function. Alright, so basically a function just calls some pre-built code. Alright, so to define a function, you want to use the keyword function, and let's just call it say it. Alright, actually let's call it say hello. Okay, so this is how you would lay it out: function, and then the name, and then parentheses, which can take parameters if you want, and then these curly braces. And inside here is where we want to put the code for the function. So for this one, let's simply say, let's echo out something. We'll echo out hello. Let's say hello world. Okay, now if we reload, nothing happens, and that's because all we did here was declare this function. We're not using it. So if we want to use it, we can just simply call it say hello. Okay, and we want to use the parentheses and then semicolon, and that should run it for us. Alright, so really simple. Now if you want to add in parameters, you can. Let's change this to say it, and it's going to take words. Alright, now what we want to do is we want to use the words variable that we're passing in. So let's simply echo words, and then we want to call this say it, and then we can pass it in a parameter. So we'll say I don't know, hello again. And actually that's wrong. You want to have it in quotes if it's a string. Okay, so we'll run that, and we get hello again. Alright, so that's the bare basics. I'm not going to go any further than that. Everything else we'll pretty much just learn as we go along. So let's get ready for our first project.